And no amendment to the Constitution is absolute.
Silly liberals, and you thought he was just talking about the Second Amendment and guns. Have you noticed how the Biden administration is getting around the Fourth Amendment right to privacy by privatizing spying? Let me say that again so that can sink in. Have you noticed how the Biden administration is getting around the Fourth Amendment by privatizing spying, censorship, illegally observing? Let's talk about that. When the president said recently, and he even said throughout the campaign, had you been paying remotely attention to what was coming out of his mouth, he had said numerous times that no amendment to the Constitution was permanent, without the need of being rethought. And I have been asking the question, well, which amendments are we talking about there, Joe? Because it's not just gun control. Which ones are up for debate now? How about the 14th Amendment? Should we just go ahead and say slavery's okay just as long as we treat them a little bit more humanely than they did in the 1860s? You know, where does it end? And if you start to think about all of the fact-checking that goes on with Facebook, the censoring and the censoring that happens on platforms like YouTube, think about what the Biden administration is empowering big tech to do. It's not just a quote-unquote suppression of your right to expression. Because on the one hand, they can say, well, you have the right to say whatever you want. You still have the First Amendment right of the freedom of speech. You can say whatever you want to say about, let's pick a topic. The 2020 election, but you better be careful where you say it. If I say what I want to say right here on this platform, the YouTube channel, it's going to get pulled. I'm going to get a strike and not be allowed to post for a week, 2 weeks, and eventually never, ever, never, 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 ever. See, it's not just about suppression. It isn't about, quote unquote, killing disinformation. Ultimately, it's about spying. You go on Facebook, you start a Facebook group, and you make it a private group. And it can be about anything. Pick something innocuous. Maybe it's about music. You're really into vinyl LPs from the 1970s. And so you start a group on Facebook where you're going to talk about, everything from rock opera of the 1970s to disco to even those lame K-Tel putting 20 songs, for that year, the hits of 1976. A private group. Now, technically speaking, the government does not have the right to just infiltrate that group and, without a warrant, spy on you. So they get YouTube to do it for them. See, everything that you do online, all that metadata, it's all being saved, it's all being warehoused. And yes, we know, thanks to Edward Snowden, that the government spies on us literally all the time. They do read our emails. They do listen in on cell conversations. And, amazing how they pushed us right away from the old phone on the wall and got us to carry the cloaking, track, and trace device in our pockets everywhere we go. But now, think about it this way. Though they have access to all of that and they know all of that, still, there is this thing that gets in their way called the Constitution. They can't just simply act on it. They can't just simply, they saw or heard something that they don't like. They can't necessarily just jump right in and whether it's arrest, harass, etc. So they have to have a way around that Fourth Amendment. And the way around it is big tech. It's YouTube, it's Facebook. They monitor you. They spy on you. They see something that you've posted that causes them concern, and then they quote unquote officially notify the government, what the government already knows because they're watching too. But the complaint will come from Facebook, the complaint will come from YouTube, TikTok, Twitter, whatever. And then they have the right to get the warrant and take you down. They're circumventing your rights. They're spying, they're collecting, and immediately, some of you will immediately say, well, I'm not doing anything wrong. Yet, think about it. I posted a picture today on my Facebook page. It's a picture that somebody took of a sign that hangs in a restaurant window in Chattanooga, Tennessee. And in Chattanooga, in the county, in the city, in the state, there's no mask mandate. But this business basically said, we don't care. You will mask in here. And it listed several things. We don't care that you've already had the vaccine. We don't care that you've already had coronavirus. We don't care, we don't care, we don't care. If you're not consuming, you're masking. So in other words, if you come in here, you make your order, you sit there, you keep the mask on. When we bring you the food, you can pull the mask down, take a bite, put the mask back up. And I simply stated, that actually defies science and logic. Because once you've lowered the mask, whatever it is that you think that the mask does, and I can share all kinds of things on what it doesn't do, but once you pull the mask down to eat or drink, then what's the point of putting it back up? You're technically, quote, exposed. But see, it's not about that. It's about virtue signaling, etc. Well, of course, I immediately got fact-checked, as the algorithm of this video will be checked. And I don't want to give out, I have to put the disclaimer in, I don't want to give out any medical disinformation. In other words, if you don't say exactly what the officially approved narrative is, you get censured, you get pulled down, you are in violation of the community standard, and you get a strike. Now, all of that right now, to some of you sounds, we can't have bad information floating out there about the virus. Okay. What about when it's a topic that you are concerned about? I've said to some pastors who right now are still pretty content with not having in-person services, so they're doing everything online. And they've gotten kind of used to, the worship team comes in like on a Tuesday, they rehearse, and then over maybe like a Wednesday, Thursday, they kind of record, and they finally now get to do a, quote, perfect worship set. There's no glitches, no problem, because it's all pre-recorded. And then the pastor, he's got all week to tinker and fiddle with his message and maybe even take a couple of days to record it and get all the kinks out and make sure every illustration is spot on and where it needs to be. And there's never a clearing of the throat or an accidental reading of the wrong verse. It's just perfect. And it's recorded and then it's all put together so that they load it up onto Facebook or YouTube or Venmo or wherever they've got it, and at a certain time, boom, there it is, it's live on Sunday morning, even though it was recorded. And half of these pastors doing that themselves are probably still in bed when their own sermon's airing. And I have said, what are you going to do when something is innocuous, if you're a Christian minister, and you say, Jesus saves, Jesus is the only way? What do you do when big tech says, hey, wait a minute, hold on now? That's exclusionatory speech. You're not being inclusive. Therefore, you have violated our community standards, you're off. Now you're going to minister. You've cut yourself off. You have validated and you have gone along with the insanity of, we don't really have to get it in person. Do you see how we get pushed and played and all in the name of ease and convenience? We carry our TVs with us in the palm of our hand and our communication. It's all there. And eventually it's going to be here or here or here when the guy that's getting the divorce Isn't it amazing? Bill Gates lectures us on how we ought to live our lives, and yet he can't hold his own marriage together. Now, Pastor Marty, you should respect their right to privacy. Yeah, because he's respected ours. Hearing Bill Gates ask us to respect his family's need for privacy when his technology, his software is the greatest invasion of people's personal privacy. I mean, for years, Microsoft, you really think that your computer just crashes every 2 years because there's a new super virus out there that takes out your computer? You don't realize that's all built into your system on purpose to keep you buying, upgrading, updating. Follow the money. And now he wants to help out with the vaccine disbursement and the shot in the arm so that you can be scanned and we know that, yes, you've had the vaccine. But hey, wait a minute. What about, why carry around a wallet? You could lose your wallet, your credit cards, your driver's license, your social security card. Well, we've got the technology digitally now. We can just put that right here, right here, right here, and scan it. Yes, the guy that is a total author and originator of how, in every way possible, to invade your right to privacy is now asking for privacy. I'm sorry. Not for him. Not going to do it. And so, using big tech, the government can say, well, we didn't take away your freedom of speech. You violated their standards, so they pulled you down. And I know some people have been saying that even about the president.
Well, the things he said, he still has the right to say them.
Where? Every social media platform has banned President Trump. Now, you can say, well, you can use one of these lesser lights. Yeah, okay. That's about as effective as going out in the backyard, digging a hole, sticking your head in it, and saying what it is you want to say. Okay? It's not going anywhere. And the same is true with the lesser media platforms. There are social media platforms which are the mode of mass communication today. And the president has been denied access to that. You and I have to be so careful what we say if we want to keep posting. And all of this is done under the Biden administration. With their thumbs up, their protection. It is how they circumvent the Fourth Amendment. Because remember, Joe made it very clear, no amendment is permanent.
And no amendment to the Constitution is absolute.
Translation, you will only have the rights we want you to have when we want you to have them. Nothing more, nothing less. That's how it works. That ought to absolutely shake you to your core. What happened to the liberals of old that used to, quote, question authority? I mean, the liberals of the 1950s and 60s were constantly saying, don't trust the government, don't trust the man, question authority. And now it is the liberals of the 21st century that question nothing that the government says and shames anyone that doesn't go along. Go outside without your mask on. No matter what the current guidelines are, people will give you the look of shame. How dare you? Walk into a store or a restaurant, even one where you don't have to have one on, and you don't have one on, you will still be looked at by the people who are masked as, how dare you? There has been a complete and total flip and change. It is now the liberals who have, using very effectively this whole concept of propaganda and lining you up. And some of you young liberals, you young ones that think a modified version of socialism is going to save us, and the president is doing what he has to do to restore calm and order and bring us all together, you realize you're just willing dupes, right? that if these people ever get the type of control and authority that they want, I promise you, everything that in your wildest nightmare you thought Donald Trump was going to do and never did, these people are going to do, and 100 times more. You will have zero freedom when it's over. It's the bait and switch. They promise you free this, free that, free, and they draw you in, and what they ultimately want to do is just take away freedom. And now they're stealing your Fourth Amendment. But they're not doing it. Big tech is. They have privatized spying. Well, that's it for this rant. Thank you so much for watching. Make sure you check us out on rumble.com. And don't forget, check your subscription status here because they're messing with it. Smack the bell, click the word all to get notification of my next rant.